Hey Algebra 2, in this video we're going to be starting section 5.3, graphing radical functions, and we're just going to focus on the square root. So first of all, let's start with the parent function. So the parent function for the square root, remember it's just always the simplest equation, so it'll be f of x equals the square root of x. The key points these are the points we'll be transforming. There's only 3 that we're going to require. So it's going to be 0, right? Because the square root of 0 is 0. 1, because the square root of 1 is 1. So we're just doing the first 3 perfect squares. And the next perfect square is not 2, it's not 3, it's 4, right? Because the square root of 4 is 2. Now, we're not going to do negative numbers because, as you hopefully remember from, a couple chapters ago, square root of a negative is imaginary, and you're not going to be able to see complex numbers on this plane. So those are your key points. That's your function. So let's do your graph. So I'm going to go up to 3 on the y-axis. And go to positive 5. Okay, so plot our points. So we're going to have 0, 0, right there in the origin, 1, 1, and 4, 2. So it's going to stop here because it can never be negative, and then it will curve and keep going. So we need an arrow that direction. The domain for this, we'll be using interval notation. So the lowest x value, right, all the way to the left, the lowest this will be is 0, and it includes 0, so it's a hard bracket, and then it's going to go on infinitely. So soft bracket, and the range, the lowest y value is 0, and then you got the arrow, and it is, although it kind of flattens out, it's not going to go like horizontal, it will slowly go up. So it'll go to positive infinity. Alright, so that's the parent function. Our generalized equation, and this is going to be for transformations. And we've done this so many times. So I'm going to just go over it once. It's still a function, f of x equals a times the square root of b in parentheses x minus h, and then on the outside plus k. And oftentimes this k is going to actually be moved to the front because we don't really like to put numbers outside of the radical. So if you remember, A is going to be a vertical dilation. Negative A is a reflection. over the x-axis. So that would make it go down here. B is a horizontal dilation. Negative B is going to be a reflection over the y-axis. This is the first time that you will actually be able to see it in your graph. It's reflection over the y. H and K are translations. So H, horizontal translation. And K, vertical. Some things I want to point out, and feel free to take side notes. Please remember, so horizontal dilations are always the opposite, right? So if this was a 2, it'd be horizontally dilated by 1/2. So not opposite, the reciprocal. Translations horizontally are always going to go the opposite way that you would think. So if this was -2, it would be going right 2, and if it were +2, it would be going left 2. So remember, everything at the horizontal values is like the opposite, so reciprocal or opposite direction. And then these two are just as is. So let's just see if we maybe do one, maybe two examples. So let's do a graphing example. Let's graph y equals -3 plus x, the square root of x plus 2. We'll keep it simple, just translations for this one. So the first thing that you need to do, and I'm going to require this like I did in the last chapter, is list your transformations. So because we're adding to inside, that's going to be a translation. And because it's adding 2, that means we're going to go left 2. And then we're adding this -3, so that on the outside, so that means that we're going to go down 3. So even though it's not on the outside, like it's not on the right, it's on the left, that doesn't matter. Commutative property, right? 2 plus 3 and 3 plus 2 are the same. So it doesn't matter where this is. It's still a translation down 3. So the next thing you are going to do is you're going to make a table of the original parent key points. That is also going to be required. So the parent is what we're transforming. So that's 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2. Remember, that's for y equals the square root of x. So how is this gonna transform? It's gonna go left 2, so it's x minus 2. And it's y minus 3. So that means we will have -2, -1, 2. And -3, -2, -1. And that's going to help us figure out how big to make our coordinate plane. So I know I need to go, my y values, you should always show the origin, so I'm going to go up to +1, and down to, I like to go one more. So, and then left to -2, and then we need to go to +2. Right, cute little graph. Okay. So -2, -3, -1, -2, and then 2, -1. So this is going to be the end point, and we'll be going in this direction, and don't forget an arrow. And that's it. Okay, let's do one more example. I got time, I think. Let's graph y equals -1. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. I wanted to do +1. Whatever. Let's do +1. And then plus the square root of -x/2. Okay, so first step, if you remember me saying literally a few seconds ago, maybe minutes, I don't know. List your transformations. So first transformation, is negative because it's inside, right? So the x's are now going to be negative. If the x's are now negative, that means we're reflecting over the y-axis. So reflect over the y-axis. Okay. What else? We got a 2 in here, so because it's inside the radical, that's a horizontal dilation. It's affecting the x's. Because it's dividing by 2, right, is the reciprocal, so it's by 2. And then what is this 1? Well, because we're adding 1, and it's a +1, that's a translation. Up 1. Okay. Next requirement is a table, so I'm going to first recall the parent function. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2. And then I'm going to apply the transformations to these these numbers, sorry. So if it's reflection over the y-axis, that is affecting my x values, right? Because like if I make my coordinate plane, if x is over here, reflecting over the y-axis makes my x values change. So I know it's going to be a negative x, but it's also horizontally dilated by 2, which is also affecting my x values. So it's going to be negative 2x. It's not going left or right, so that's it. It is going up, so that means y plus 1. So now, what are my points? Excuse me. So it'll be 0, -2, -8, and then 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So, y values, I'm going to go up to 4. X values, I'm going to go to -8. Plot my points. So 0, 1, -2, 2, -8, 3. And I have a hard time doing it when it's reflected. There we go. And an arrow. So like I said, so it's reflected over the y-axis, right? If something's over here, y-axis reflection makes your x values negative, whereas reflection over the x-axis makes your y values negative. So just remember, list your transformations first, make a table, graph. 3 steps, all required.